Part 1, Chapter 7 of Never Let Me Go, we really start to see what's going on in the classroom. We can take a look back at page 33. Why is poetry so important? Why are these students making artwork to bring into an exchange? Why is a 9-year-old's poem so significant? What about these students is important? And we start to see this science fiction theme start to emerge. You find out on page 78 of chapter 7 that they start learning about the Holocaust. Now, imagine for these students, it's like a boarding school. They've never left. Their life is confined in the walls of Hailsham, so they don't really understand that the Holocaust isn't real. We were all laughing and talking at once, and then Laura, typical of her, got up on her seat and did a hysterical impersonation of someone reaching out and getting electrocuted. So she impersonates a prisoner of these camps during the Holocaust getting electrocuted because they don't really understand that this really happened, that it's not okay to make fun of these people, but they think it's a story. How would they know any better? Miss Lucy kind of reacts in a negative way to this. She tries to turn this on, well, you know, at Hailsham, we don't have electric fences, but what if we did? So she says that their lives are different. There's a focus on the humanities, which means that they read a lot of poetry, literature, they make art, but they don't have discussions about this. Usually, if you're reading books like To Kill a Mockingbird, that sparks a conversation about the civil rights movement. But we don't really see that at Hailsham. It's just the basic minimum. Finally, on page 81, now at this point, these students are 15 years old, just for some perspective. Miss Lucy kind of has an outburst to her students. One student jokes about how he's going to become an actor one day, and Miss Lucy finally speaks up and says, "None of you will go to America. None of you will be film stars, and none of you will be working in supermarkets, as I've heard some of you plan the other day. Your lives are set out for you. You'll become adults, then before you're old, before you're middle-aged, you'll start to donate your vital organs. That's what each of you was created to do. You're not like the actors you watch in your videos. You're not even like me. You were brought into this world for a purpose, and your futures, all of them have been decided." So basically, what Miss Lucy tells them is, you were created. You were created for a purpose, and you will not have a normal life. You'll be leaving Hailsham before long, and it's not so far off, the day you'll be preparing for your first donations. So now we can kind of make this connection. What are these donations? If you go to get your license or your permit, they ask you, would you like to be an organ donor? And that is what these students were made for. They are not sons or daughters. They are not sisters or brothers. They are donors. So when we go back to chapter 1 and we see Kathy working as a carer and she has her own donors, these are the donors. She says on chapter 1, page 1, "My donors have always tended to do much better than expected. Their recovery times have been impressive and hardly any of them have been classified as agitated, even before the 4th donation." So not only are they donating once, up to 4 times, and maybe more, we don't know. They kind of joke about being organ donors, and they say they unzip themselves for their organs to fall out. And Tommy, in this chapter, gets a cut, and they joke about his organs. Virtually the whole table unzipping bits of themselves and piling it over Gary's bowl. So they just joke about being donors in a way. But Kathy and Tommy kind of talk about this, and they're reflecting back on Miss Lucy's discussion. None of us stopped to think about how she felt, Miss Lucy herself. We never worried if she'd gotten into trouble saying what she did to us. We were so selfish back then. They were selfish because they weren't thankful for what Miss Lucy told them. Miss Lucy told them their future despite her not being able to. So once we get into chapter 8, we kind of see what happens with Miss Lucy and how this all turns out. But we really start to see the idea of science fiction emerge. What is the purpose of the students at Hailsham, and how does that play out in a science fiction type of genre?